everyone, welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. President Lee Jae-myung returned home early Thursday after wrapping up his 6-day trip to the United States and Japan, where he met with his American counterpart Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. As widely expected, South Korea's central bank has decided to hold its interest rate steady at 2.5% amid soaring housing prices in Seoul. In the United States, 2 children were killed and 17 other people were injured in a deadly shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis. Authorities say a shooter opened fire with a rifle through the windows of the Catholic church while Mass was taking place, celebrating the first week of school. South Korea's central bank has kept its key interest rate steady at 2.5%. The Bank of Korea announced a rate freeze on Thursday morning after cutting the rate by 25 basis points in May and holding it steady in July. The decision comes as concerns remain over surging house prices and rising household debt. It also reflects slowing inflation and growing volatility in the foreign exchange market. Following the move, the interest rate gap between South Korea and the United States remains at 2 percentage points. So South Korea's central bank has now announced that it will hold its interest rate steady. For more on what's behind this decision, we're joined by Professor Kim Yong-jin, professor at Seogang Business School. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So as widely expected, the Bank of Korea has decided to keep its benchmark interest rate at 2.5%. What's behind this decision?
Well, as almost like 84% of market experts agreed, to the hold of base interest rate, the BOK, made a decision like that. From the last decision of freezing the base rate at 2.5 in July, I think, there was nothing changed. The household debt is still high. The upward pressure on the housing price in Seoul is still lingering. The uncertainty of the Trump tariff policy is going on. The only thing, changed is the domestic consumption after government subsidy. Domestic consumption is still a little bit improved due to the supplementary budget spending, but it is not enough at the moment. If the BOK considered more seriously the economic situation, which experienced negative growth in the first quarter, it would have, cut the base rate, but it did not. So, considering all the factors, it is reasonable for the BOK to hold the base rate unchanged. Moreover, there's no reason for the BOK to, make the rate cut decision earlier than the U.S. Fed decision, due to the foreign exchange volatility. So those the BOK's decision was quite understood.
I see. So when exactly can we expect the Bank of Korea to begin lowering rates? Many experts say it could be October. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's right. Most experts are expecting the rate cut in October. Basically, that is after U.S. Fed decision on the base interest. Jerome Powell signaled there might be some chances of base rate cut of the U.S. in next meeting, the September meeting. So we see how the Fed, make the decision, and then also we can see around that time the effect of Trump tariff policy on the price. So basically, the Trump tariff policy is not effective yet in terms of inflation. So U.S. Fed will make decision based on that information, and we'll see what kind of decision we'll make in October at the central bank, FOMC meeting.
Right. And speaking of Trump's tariffs and the U.S. decision, a lot of attention is on South Korea's investment in the United States, as Korean companies said they'll invest $150 billion there. Now, this is reportedly separate from the $350 billion South Korea earlier agreed to invest as part of last month's trade agreement. How do you see economic cooperation between Seoul and Washington evolving?
Well, it is quite, surprised to see the numbers, but basically it is not like a kind of surprise, right? Because, it is a quite clear trend in that, companies are moving their production operation functions to the countries which are considered as a market. So that was, a recent trend. In this sense, the recent investment decisions of Korean companies are quite understandable. There are several venues for both Korea and the U.S. to pursue. In the very strategic areas like defense industry and shipbuilding industry, Korean companies have a strong production capability, and the U.S. companies have a strong design capability. If they go together as a team, I'm not sure they can make a team or not, but if they go together as a team, there will be a big synergy in those collaboration. So, and also in the manufacturing sector, like automobile and semiconductor, in which the U.S. companies have lost its capability, and the Korean companies can help rebuild the manufacturing capability, by building the factories. The market means the U.S. and then Canada and Mexico, right? And then this will be similar in the bio industry too. So it'll be great, for Korean companies and then U.S. companies together to make a collaborative business ecosystem. And then this is totally different types of global value chain, before the Trump tariff policy. So we'll see, the further development in the new business ecosystem or new global value chain in this trend of, the after wake of Trump tariff policy.
Right. You just mentioned that South Korea has strong capabilities in the shipbuilding industry and talked about how South Korea and the U.S. can work possibly as a team. And cooperation on shipbuilding is a major part of the two countries' economic ties, especially with the Make America Shipbuilding Great Again project. Now, this is set to include building U.S. shipyards, training shipbuilding personnel, and maintaining U.S. Navy ships. What's your take on this?
Well, I think the mascot is Make American Shipbuilding Great Again. That's the best outcome of the recent tariff negotiation of the U.S. with any other trade partners, right? This is a kind of signatory project, the U.S. and Korea can pursue together. It is a kind of exemplary case of the win-win strategy between the countries. I mean, no other countries, propose those kind of project to the U.S. and that will help, Korean companies too. So even though we need to see what will be happening to the project in the future, to evaluate, right? At the moment, it's too early to evaluate the performance. I believe it will create a great new business ecosystem, like I mentioned, where Korea and the U.S. are collaborating to build the best quality of Navy ships and maintain the best quality to give more power to the U.S. Navy. And the Korean shipbuilding companies will be given the access to the U.S. Navy shipbuilding, which is, blocked, to any foreign countries. But Korean companies may have the chances to access to that market and also maintenance too. And while the U.S. Navy and companies will gaining the production and maintenance capability through Korean companies so that they could internalize those kind of systems. The key problem here is like people, like the training, shipbuilding personnel. The expertise in those personnel are the key to rebuild all this kind of ecosystem. So we have to really think about how to, grow those kind of expert in shipbuilding areas together.
Right, we'll have to see how that goes, and hopefully it works out well, the project. All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has now returned home, wrapping up his high-stakes summits to the United States and Japan. The trip is seen as having laid the groundwork for trilateral cooperation, while opening the door to talks with North Korea and boosting strategic and economic ties. Our Park Hyo-bin reports.
President Lee Jae-myung returned home after his high-stakes summits to the U.S. and Japan at around 1 a.m. on Thursday, greeted with handshakes and applause following his arrival at Seoul Airport in Seongnam. His six-day trip is being hailed as a major step in strengthening trilateral cooperation with Washington and Tokyo. There had been concerns after President Trump's social media post suggesting that a purge or revolution was unfolding in South Korea. Nevertheless, the meeting was seen as a major achievement, opening the door to renewed dialogue with North Korea, as Seoul pledged to work to facilitate a potential meeting between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
대통령께서 피스메이커를 하시면 저는 페이스메이커로 열심히 지원하겠습니다.
That's good. We can do big.
Trump also expressed willingness to meet Kim before the year's end, raising hopes for renewed momentum toward peace on the Korean peninsula. With Trump set to attend the APEC summit in Gyeongju this October, prospects of a U.S.-North Korea meeting remain open.
I will do that, and we'll have talks. He'd like to meet with me.
He also made clear that his administration is moving away from Seoul's past security with the U.S., economy with China stance, instead placing trilateral cooperation with Washington and Tokyo at the center of its diplomacy.
And then there are some critics, honestly, who say you're too pro-China. Could you respond to that?
또 미국의 정책이 명확하게 이제 중국을 견제하는 방향으로 가면서 한국도 과거와 같은 태도를 취할 수는 없는 상태가 됐습니다.
On the economic front, he stressed cooperation in shipbuilding. Before returning home, he visited the Hanwha Philly shipyard in Philadelphia and touted the so-called Make America Shipbuilding Great Again project, underlining the role of South Korean companies in revitalizing U.S. shipbuilding through investment, workforce training, and modernized technology.
한국의 조선소들은 미국 조선소에 투자하고 우수한 인력을 양성하는 한편으로 현대화된 공정기술이 미국에 뿌리 내릴 수 있도록 도울 것입니다.
Observers note that Lee also managed to avoid an immediate security bill from Washington during the visit. Notably, Lee's decision to visit Tokyo before Washington is seen as having bolstered trilateral coordination. He emphasized restoring high-level diplomacy with Japan. And for the first time in 17 years, the leaders of South Korea and Japan issued a joint written agreement, signaling a stronger commitment to improving bilateral ties. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., 2 children were killed and over a dozen others were injured when a gunman opened fire at a Catholic school in Minnesota. The shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot, with authorities continuing to question the motives. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
2 children were killed and 17 others injured when a shooter opened fire during morning mass at the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis on Wednesday local time. Police say the shooter fired dozens of rounds through church windows just before 8:30 a.m., targeting children and parishioners sitting in the pews. The victims include 14 children between the ages of 6 and 15 and 3 parishioners in their 80s. The 2 children who died were 8 and 10 years old. Authorities say all of the injured are expected to survive.
At this point, we know we have a total of 19 victims from this tragedy. 2 were young children, ages 8 and 10, that were sitting in the pews at Mass when they were shot and killed. They were pronounced deceased on the scene.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara added that staff members acted heroically, moving students under pews and helping evacuate them within minutes once it was safe. The FBI identified the shooter as a 23-year-old Robin Westman, who died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the scene. Westman was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, all of which were purchased recently and legally. Court records also show that Westman, who identified as a female, was born Robert Westman. In the wake of the tragedy, Pope Leo XIV expressed his profound sorrow. In a message delivered over telegram to Archbishop Bernard Hebda, the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis, the Pope commended the souls of the two children to God and offered prayers for the wounded, first responders, clergy, and loved ones. The shooting took place during a mass as the school entered the first week of the new school year. 이승재, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the United States says it will newly impose sanctions on firms and individuals accused of involvement in a fraudulent North Korean IT worker scheme that's used to help fund Pyongyang's weapons programs. On Wednesday local time, the U.S. Treasury sanctioned two individuals, Russian national Vitaly Sergeyevich Andreev, who helped transfer money to a company under sanctions, and North Korean diplomat Kim Ung-sun, who together with Andreev carried out several financial deals, including cashing out about $600,000 in cryptocurrency. It also sanctions Seonyang Kumphungri Network Technology Corporation, which is accused of acting as a front company for the scheme. Also on the sanctions list was Korea Shinjin Trading Corporation, accused of sending instructions from Pyongyang for dispatching North Korean IT workers overseas. A Seoul court has rejected a request to arrest former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo over his alleged role in former President Yoon Suk-yeol's failed attempt to impose martial law. The Seoul Central District Court on Wednesday night denied the warrant sought by Special Counsel Cho Eun-seok, ruling that there is still room for legal dispute regarding key facts and how Han's actions should be legally assessed. Han faces multiple charges, including abetting the ringleader of an insurrection, falsifying and destroying official documents, and perjury. He is further suspected of drafting and later destroying a revised proclamation designed to bolster the decree's legitimacy. The former prime minister is also accused of lying under oath at both the Constitutional Court and the National Assembly, insisting that he only learned Yoon had given him a copy of the declaration after martial law was lifted. The works of young aspiring artists are on display here in Seoul as they seek to establish a firm foothold in the world of art. Our An Jung-jin spoke to a few of them.
Hidden artistic talent is now in the spotlight. Here at the 2025 Asian Students and Young Artists Art Festival, more than 500 artists have put up their work. Celebrating its 18th anniversary this year, ASYAAF is Asia's largest festival for young artists. It features contributions from across Asia, including Taiwan, Singapore, and Japan. With more than 1,000 artworks, this exhibition provides a glimpse into the creativity and dedication of these young artists.
I first got to know about this exhibition when I was in college, and back then, I thought one day, I will also showcase my artwork. This is my first ever exhibition, so I've put a lot of effort into it.
For a lot of young new artists, ASYAAF is a stepping stone to a bigger stage to showcase their artwork to the public.
Until now, I've only submitted work as a group, but I wanted to experience the larger world, so I ended up participating in this art fair with the dream of becoming an artist. I'm still a bit nervous, but I'm so happy that I can display my own work in a space like this.
And it's the vibrant energy and passion that attracts visitors to the exhibition every year.
I'm coming here almost every year with my friend, and I like how I can see a variety of young artists and their artwork.
I've started coming here after my friend introduced me. Since these artists are young, I think I get a lot of energy from them, and it's also refreshing to see them.
This year's ASYAAF is being hosted at Culture Station Seoul 284, the former Seoul Station building, which celebrates its 100th anniversary. The exhibition is divided into 8 different concepts such as departure and arrival, destination and transit, and other themes linked to train travel.
For a lot of these young artists, they're just starting their career. And I think ASYAAF acts as a gateway for these artists. We get attention for nurturing these artists who come out to continue great work.
The exhibition runs until September 7th and not only gives visitors a chance to appreciate the artwork, but also interact with these rising stars of the art world. So why not go and check it out? An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. At the United Nations Security Council, all members except the United States have declared that the famine in Gaza is a man-made crisis. During a Security Council session on Wednesday, representatives from 14 of the 15 current members issued a joint statement calling the situation in Gaza a famine caused by human actions. The statement also condemned the use of food deprivation as a weapon of war, asserting that this practice is clearly prohibited under international humanitarian law. They called for an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire, the release of all hostages, an increase in humanitarian aid, and for Israel to lift all restrictions on aid delivery immediately. According to the latest data from the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification System, nearly a quarter of Gaza's population is currently experiencing famine. In response, Israel challenged the report, labeling it as biased and based on incomplete data, while the U.S. representative at the Council questioned the credibility of the findings. The leaders of France, Germany, and Poland visited Moldova to mark its 34th Independence Day and underscore their support for Moldova's EU accession. French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk met with Moldova's President Maya Sandu on Wednesday to back the former Soviet republic in its pro-European course. This comes amid intensified Russian interference in its upcoming parliamentary elections on September 28th. All three leaders emphasized Moldova's path to EU membership and praised its resilience against hybrid threats from Moscow. President Sandu warned that independence is fragile, citing risks from disinformation, cyber attacks, and foreign-financed unrest. She said independence is not guaranteed, it depends on the choice we make. The Russian Defense Ministry said Wednesday that for the first time, Russian and Chinese diesel-electric submarines successfully completed a joint patrol in the Asia-Pacific region. This mission was initiated in early August, immediately following the Maritime Interaction 2025 joint naval exercises conducted by Russia and China in the East Sea. The objective of the joint patrol is to strengthen naval cooperation between the two countries, enhance peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific region, and protect the maritime economic interests of both nations. Finally, the Guinness World Records, a British record listing platform, celebrated its 70th anniversary on Wednesday, marking 7 decades since the first edition was published on August 27, 1955. To commemorate the milestone, the organization unveiled 70 new unclaimed record categories, inviting the public to attempt feats ranging from the fastest 400-meter sack race, furthest bottle flip, to the most high fives in 30 seconds. The Guinness World Records history began as a way to resolve pub debates and has since transformed into a global authority on extraordinary achievements, continuing to celebrate human ambition in different forms.
Although the season is slowly shifting toward autumn, the summer heat is not letting up just yet. At least here in the capital, we went without a tropical night for the second night in a row, but humidity kept the feels-like temperatures at tropical night levels. Today, the heat continues with daytime highs reaching above 30 degrees Celsius across much of Korea. And from this afternoon into the evening, instability in the atmosphere will trigger scattered showers again. Rainfall amounts will range from 5 to 40 millimeters along with that thunderstorms. But skies will stay mostly clear until those showers pass, with an expected high of 32 degrees Celsius here in the capital. Daegu, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Jeju will be all topping out at 33 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Now we'll need a dual-purpose sun and waterproof umbrella with frequent passing rain in the forecast through the weekend. And despite September beginning next week, daytime heat is forecast to stay with us, so please take well care.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.